Professor Shirley Zin, Mohammed Iqbal Khan, former chairman of Finance Committee, as well as Don Mukhobo, the former chairperson of Ramco, citing various reasons. And I have spoken to all of them. And unfortunately, some of the resignations, before the board could consider them, were out there in the media. But as a board, we want to emphasize the point that board members have a responsibility to the organization, have a responsibility to the company in terms of keeping confidential information of the company. It's a duty that attaches to each and every member of the board. And the board has decided to thank them for their services. And as I have communicated as such to them. And the board will engage in a process through our nomination processes to fill in those vacancies. The last matter that I want to address you on is the suspension of certain staff members at head office. When I think it would have been when after the company secretary was appointed, Walsh Kwaza, I met him and the CEO. And one of the things that I said to them is that let's clean up our organization. And it is an instruction that I've given before. Let's clean up our organization so that what we see, what the public sees, is what the public want to see. And these are very difficult issues to deal with. We cannot go into details because you're talking about the employment of individuals in the company. And as a responsible employer, we cannot therefore begin to go into details as to what are the specific issues and so on. But what is important is that there are disciplinary processes which have been instituted against these staff members. To ensure that the disciplinary process is fair, CSA has appointed independent chairpersons for the DC, hearing as well as an external prosecutor. What we've done, we've taken whatever we have in terms of evidence, put before an independent prosecutor for that person to prosecute this case, so that there's total independence in dealing with these matters. I think those were the issues that we wish to communicate to you. I will give over to my colleagues next to me if they want to add here and there. Other than that, we can have an engagement in terms of questions, but we don't have a lot of time. There's anything to say? Okay. Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. Members of the media, due to time, I will allow the members of the media to engage with the panel. We've agreed on 15 minutes for Q&A session so that we could have an opportunity for one-on-one with the president and also with the new acting CEO of Cricket South Africa. So I'll hand over to the members of the media to ask questions to the panel by raise of hand. I'll give the first one to you, Stap.
Pilasande from Newsroom Africa. Mr. President, just for clarity's sake, how long is the suspension of...
All right, so we're going to come out of that press briefing that Cricket South Africa is holding. They've been having important meetings today and discussing some very serious issues in terms of a way forward. As you know, the CEO of Cricket South Africa has been suspended with full pay, and Jacques Fall has been appointed acting CEO of Cricket South Africa. Graham Smith, the former Proteas captain, is still in final talks and perhaps will be announced as a new director of Cricket South Africa in due course. So as again, sponsors have been leaving Cricket South Africa, and so this crisis, they're trying to manage it the best way they can. We'll keep you up to date with developments taking place at CSA in the coming hours.
We'll have to engage wherever we engage on that score.
Hi, Nguyen Tulsi from the Mail and Guardian. Mr. Nanzani, first question for you. Thank you for taking the South African public into your confidence in that spirit. I was just wondering, while I understand that there may be HR issues around the 7 suspended officials, can you perhaps give the South African public an idea as to what some of the broad themes that, or the broad allegations may be? Is it money? Does it have to do with financial irregularities? Does it have to do with any specific behavior, etc.? And my second question for Mr. Skuman. Sir, you're the only independent director here. And I suppose the independent director's job is to provide independent mindedness and expertise when it comes to decisions being made. Over the past 2 years, generally, what have you been doing? And more specifically, how did you respond, for example, to the CEO coming to you with a T20 competition which was not going to be monetized, which didn't have broadcast rights, which didn't have sponsors? How did you all respond as independent directors? Thanks.
I think let me put it very clear from the onset. The suspension of these 3 senior executives in the organization has nothing to do with misappropriation of funds. It has to do with certain decisions that should have been taken, which were not taken, leading to a situation where the payment that was due to SACA in terms of Mzansi Super League 2018, that should have been paid out in terms of image rights. I mean, it's a common issue.
So that's in the public domain. I'm talking about the 3 other individuals who suspended this week and the CEO.
I think I explained with the CEO. But also at the level where you have other members of staff suspended, there is a process, internal process, that is taking place in terms of firming up on internal controls and looking at spaces like your procurement area as well as your credit card usage in the organization. And as you go through, you gather enough evidence, and in order for you to be able to proceed, you may have to suspend a particular individual so that that person is not in a position to interfere with witnesses or processes internally. That is an internal process that will be completed, and that process takes place under the auspices of the Audit and Risk Committee. At this stage, we cannot have any conclusive statement to say this is what this person has done. It has to come out after a proper investigation.
And do you have a timeline, sir?
It's difficult to put a timeline in such investigations because you might not know how deep it is, or it may take a very few weeks to sort out, or it may take some kind of time. But you will need to give space to that investigation so that it's concluded exhaustively.
Thank you very much. Mr. Skuman.
Thank you for the question. Unfortunately, I think the answer that I'm going to give you is not the one that you were looking for. And that I was nominated and appointed by the Members' Council at the AGM on the 7th of September. So what I've been doing since then, in my capacity as Chairman of the Audit and Risk Committee and a member of the Social and Ethics Committee, I've made it my business to understand what is going on. And I also participated in the discussions and have provided advice and input as a director in terms of my experience and in terms of my own thoughts that I do independently.
In fact, I can come in here because I think the question from the onset was probably unfair for Marius.
Sure.
Yeah, but maybe you were not aware of that fact. So I'm not blaming you for asking that question. I think we need to correct the perception that the Mzansi Super League was a Thabang Morwe product. We need to correct that. That was a product and a decision of CSA, taken by all the structures of CSA. You know that management is there to implement decisions taken by the board and the relevant structures. It was not his personal fiefdom that he had developed, and he was exercising a mandate given to him. You'll recall that in 2017, we pulled the plug on the then T20 Global League, primarily because it was not affordable. Hence, we said, okay, let's look at an alternative. And we knew when we approved all the model relating to the Mzansi Super League, we knew that it's not going to make money as soon as we wish it to. And I think it's a fair or unfair kind of an assessment. If you look at the IPL in India, it began to make money, I think, on the 10th year. And you expect, therefore, Mzansi League to make money in its second or in its first year. But the point is, it's not the CEO's baby, it is an organization. But as the leader of the executive management, he had to lead at that level.
Thank you, sir. Kaniso, and then Kamani, Chris, in that order.
Kriso Emarmela from Vision View Sports Radio. Mr. President, when you speak to Graham, the discussions that you've had, does he mention anything about him having his own people when he comes through in terms of team manager and the technical team? Or whatever he says, what does it say about Enoch Nkwe? Is it going to be an advertised position? Is he going to continue on the interim?
Unfortunately, I was talking to him alone, not to him with his people. But I understand the question, the import of your question. Remember, as a board, when we introduced this position of the director of cricket, which, by the way, is not a new position, it's not a new concept because of the World Cup performance. This comes out of the review, a national team review panel that was in place way back in 2015. And we said as a board, we need to give that person total control of the cricket and playing affairs space. And therefore, when the director of coaching comes in, let me explain this way. That is why you do not have currently, you have an interim director of the team, you do not have a selection panel, because when that person comes in, the director of cricket, he must have a handle on the appointment of those key functionalities.
Tando?
Mr. President, Tando Kamani from SABC Sport. Firstly, the Gauteng the Gauteng Lions, Central Gauteng Lion Cricket Board have come out to express, a number of resolution, or a resolution with a number of steps apparently to be taken, and that was to disband the whole board. I don't recall you giving a bit of a view on that from the board's perspective, and also maybe reassurance that this is the direction CSA is taking. And just secondly, with the sponsors as well, they've come out aggressively in social media, and just a way forward with that as well, sir, please.
The resolution of the Central Gauteng Cricket Board has not come before the Members' Council. It was not part of the agenda, because that is where it should have been discussed. It was not submitted, therefore it was not discussed. But I think that board was within its right to make such a resolution when they have their ordinary meetings in the pursuit of the interests of the game in this country. But that matter was did not serve before the Members' Council, therefore it was not addressed. So there's no resolution or any opinion on it. And then the issue of sponsors. Remember, when I started, I said we want to come up and talk to the public, including our commercial partners, because they're very important in this game. And Standard Bank, I've spoken to them, they've spoken to me, and even before their meeting where they took that decision, we had a conversation in the morning, and even the week before that, we had a conversation with their CMO. They've taken a decision, and we may not like the decision they've taken, but you need to understand the circumstances. As a corporate body, they had to take such a decision when they consider the issues around cricket in this country. But the renewal process would be in 2020 April. And I'm sure by then you would have had a different situation. and we'll continue to engage with all our sponsors because they're important to us. Therefore, we'll continue to engage with them, and we have a period where we are just, it's like a banana peel, if I may put it that way. But we have to recover and do the work that we need to do, the work that we have been put in these positions to do.
Chris, then Mbali.
Mr. President, Christo Buchner from Network 24. Just
Yes,
the position of the media manager, who apparently was quite instrumental in having the accreditations withdrawn. What's his position? And then also, what would you say to cricket fans around the country with England basically arriving this week, I would imagine, and their first match starting in a week and a half? Should there be concern from them that, you know, a national squad and a coach selection panel have not actually officially been announced or at this stage?
I think let me start with the last one, because it's very important. I think the public should not be concerned. I understand the concern that is there, and the agitation that is there and consternation, but I think the public should not be concerned. These matters are going to be attended to. Even if you were to say everything were to be normal, if I may use that word, and you'd have a coach, you'd have everybody in place, still the team would not be would not be in camp now, because you still have the Mzansi Super League continuing, and after that you still have a round of the 4-day games to be played. Immediately we announced that we are appointing the director of cricket. Immediately everything kicks in, and fortunately there will be support from the CEO. Everything will kick in, and we will be ready to face England, and will give them a tough time. I'm sure about that.
Can I just ask, will the national players, you know, the Faf du Plessis and Kagiso Rabadas, all the national players, will they be sort of be almost forced or be asked to play in that last round of the domestic matches before the first test starts?
It will depend on the director of cricket as well as the team director. What decision they take, and they will advise the CEO, and the CEO will take that decision accordingly. And what was your second aspect of the question? Because I started with the last one.
The first one was on the media manager.
Okay.
At the moment.
Remember, as a board, we deal with the CEO. We don't overreach beyond the CEO. And I was here on Tuesday, and I was at the office, and I met Tabang and his management team. And when I spoke to him, and I asked, "What are you doing?" And the sense was that he is taking responsibility for what had happened and is going to deal with the matter internally. So to me, that's where I should stop. I cannot go and overreach at the level of the manager, because he reports to the CEO. Ours is to hold the CEO accountable.
Mbali, can you take the next question? And then Tolagele, then Stuart.
President, Mbali at the back. Can you just give us clarity, because there's a difference between renewal and termination of contract between you guys and Standard Bank. What has transpired? Was Standard Bank, was the contract due to expire next year, so Standard Bank decided not to renew, or they've decided to terminate the contract with you, which was still?
I think that question is very important, so that it puts everything in context. The contract with Standard Bank expires next year in April. They have taken a decision that when that contract expires, they will not renew. Currently, the engagement and the contractual obligations on the part of Standard Bank, on the part of CSA, still continue until that period in time.
Stuart, the mic is behind you.
Tolagele from Eyewitness News. President, can we just get clarity in terms of, we're hearing that you guys had that marathon board meeting yesterday where all these decisions were made. For the local cricket fan, they're sitting there going, but all these months, since we knew that we've restructured the management side, why did it take so long to actually get to this point where we're making decisions, whether it's about the director of cricket or sitting down and discussing with SACA a way forward?
There's an ideal world and a real world. And in an ideal world, everything falls in line, as expected, as planned. But in a real world, you need to deal with real and objective situations. And you need to be able to respond to the challenges that are taking place at a particular time. And the matter of taking decisions and meeting as a board and then to be able to ensure that all of these decisions are taken. Sometimes you're dealing with moving targets. I'll give you an example. When the panel interviewed the candidates for the director of cricket position, they had a preferred candidate. And we were ready to meet so that we can give a proper mandate to that particular candidate. But something else happens. Therefore, you have to reset your entire process and engage in a different strategic debate and discussions with this particular person. Because if you don't do that, all other things that are contingent to the appointment of a director of cricket are not going to be able to take place. And therefore, we had to get to a point where you are able to meet. You'll recall that we had planned a press conference on Tuesday. But we felt that we do not want to call a press conference when we have not sort of put together a very concrete framework of how we're moving forward. Because you'd have you'd have asked me questions which I could not be in a position to answer those questions, and all of my colleagues here. Hence, we said, okay, let the board meeting take place, let the members' council, which met last night, take place, so that you have all of these decisions, having gone through the necessary governance structures of CSA, and then you are able to say, this is what we're communicating as the way forward.
Stu? Stuart is from the Star. How are you and the board taking responsibility for what is a crisis in South African cricket at the moment and what has taken place, especially in the last week? The board is very much complicit in allowing the CEO to take on all these responsibilities. Those are his words, the first week of August. So how are you taking responsibility as a board, as a president, for what has taken place here? Why isn't, and then my second part of the question is, why haven't you as president resigned, and why hasn't the board resigned?
The board, Stuart, is not complicit in terms of decision making. The board took decisions, and therefore those decisions had to be implemented by the CEO and his management. And in that process, the board will have to conduct business and take decisions within its purview, within its competency. And therefore, management will continue to implement those decisions in terms of the mandate emanating from the board. And what has been a critical element has been these two issues that I've referred to. The non-payment of the monies that are due to SACA for the players, as well as the revocation of accreditation for certain journalists. And that is the issue that has sort of become so critical that we had to take drastic actions. Other than that, some of these matters is just a matter of processing the decisions. And what we have done, we have given the CEO responsibility, indeed. We have given the CEO responsibilities so that he can be accountable to the board. And the board would hold the CEO accountable for that. And the board accounts to the members' council in terms of the decisions that it is taking and also how it acts out those decisions. And the members' council, after a very long discussion last night, felt that the board should continue in order to ensure that the challenges that are facing this organization are dealt with.
How are you taking responsibility, though? I mean, I'm struggling to understand.
For what?
As a president and as a board, for this crisis that we're sitting with in South African cricket right now. I'm battling to understand how you are taking responsibility. Can you explain?
That is why we're sitting here to talk to the nation, so that we're able to say we have taken these decisions to address the matters that require to be addressed. And we're making very clear that we are explaining the contextual factors in terms of taking decisions and or decisions that have not been taken at the time when the nation would have expected those decisions to be taken. Yeah. I'm not sure if some of my colleagues would want to
you can take the next question.
Shlonim Timkulu from ENCA. You said that on Tuesday you had asked Thabang what is he doing. So just on that, how did some of the decisions that took place and that resulted in all of this that's happened this week happen, or what have been your conversations exactly around how all of this happened, also with SACA and the tensions around there, and also just clarity on Graham Smith. Is there any chance that before Wednesday terms could possibly not be agreed on?
If you negotiate a contract, there's a possibility that you may agree and a possibility that you may not agree. And I think what is important is, I'm sure if you've done any kind of negotiations, you'll know that you'll agree that these are the key issues. If you agree on the key issues, we can then at a later stage deal with the minor issues. And the minor issues also is relative. It might be minor to me, may not be minor to you. So that is why we're saying by Wednesday we need to make an announcement. We're giving space for what needs to happen in terms of looking at the contract issues. In principle, we've agreed he is on board, but we need to ensure that before we can say we are signing, we're appointing him, but then we have to address the key issues so that we don't have to get into an agreement and we sign and then we don't agree on some aspects of the contract. Then also in the issue of some of the issues that relate to SACA, remember the issue that relates to SACA did not only emerge last week or this week. It is a matter that has emerged and was attended to quickly when the CEO became aware of this matter. He attended to it as a matter of urgency. I think they would have signed around about 12 o'clock on that particular day, and the payment would have been effected in the late afternoon. It did not emanate during this week. But the other issue that emanated this week, I think the CEO has issued a statement in which he apologized to the country, to the media, and a statement that we have also endorsed as a board, and would have expected him to take measures internally, as he had said to me, and therefore that matter needs also to be pursued by the incoming acting CEO.
Members of the media, can I kindly take two last questions, then we'll open it up for one-on-ones.
And they will be taken by any of my colleagues.
Yes, sir. Nicole, you've had your hand up for a while.
Hi, Mr. President. Nicole from ENCA. I've got two quick ones. Why, and this is to CSA, why has it taken CSA so long to realize, for the lack of better words, that they need to get their house in order? The issue of non-payment to players is not a new one. This is the second season of MSL. Least us forget, prior to MSL, we had the GLT20. Least us also forget the cries from SACA that CSA does not communicate with them. I personally, having worked in cricket myself, have communication from April 2018 that still hasn't been responded to by CSA. So when CSA goes forth and says journalists are lying, it actually isn't true. CSA doesn't communicate. That is number one to CSA. And then number two, I think, KK, you did say we can speak to Jacques Fall as well. Dr. Jacques Fall from Titans Cricket is possibly the best CEO in cricket in its entirety. So now you becoming interim CEO now at CSA, what does that mean for Titans Cricket? You guys have been number one for, I think, 5 years in a row in administration. Who's going to look after Titans Cricket and Northern's Cricket Union while you're gone?
Nicole, can I kindly ask the second question? Dr. Jacques will take it for the one-on-ones. I'll hand over the first questions to the panel.
Anybody wish to respond to that question? I can respond. I don't have a problem to that question. There was a question relates to why does CSA take so long in terms of responding to some of the issues. For instance, you're making reference to payments that should have been done to the players, to SACA, as part of the agreement that was signed last year. And I'm sure this matter has been ventilated quite a lot in the media. And we have, as CSA, issued statements on this regard, and some of them have been disregarded. But the issue here is this is a matter that had not been brought to the attention of the CEO until at a point where SACA declared a dispute. And when the CEO had knowledge of this matter, the matter was addressed within days. And also, I would be, it will be very difficult for me to respond as to when you're saying CSA does not respond to queries or media communication. Because CSA, remember, is a huge organization. It would be quite useful if you were to be specific in terms of a matter that was addressed to a particular person. But in a general sense, we would like to be responsive as quickly as we can because we are dealing with a national asset. Cricket is not for us, for the benefit of the people of this country, the players, the fans, the commercial partners. So we would want to improve on that. And one of the, unfortunately, I'm going to say that one of the issues that Jacques has to deal with is this turnaround in terms of our communication responding to issues that are brought before us.
Paul, can you take the last question? Then we'll go to one-on-ones.
Again, Paul from One World Sports Radio. Mr. President, in your discussions with Graham, what was the breakdown in relationship between CSA and him in terms of, you mentioned that he was number one preferred candidate in the Remco selection?
This would need me to give a bit of a context to that question before I can answer it. You'll recall that there were media reports that Graham has emerged as the favorite candidate. And within that space, there was a meeting planned so that I can meet with him before an offer to employ him has been made, in order to ensure that I convey to him clearly the thinking and the mandate from the board. I've done that before when we have certain key personnel appointed. That meeting would have taken place on a certain Friday. And unfortunately, the Thursday before, Graham issued a message that he is no longer available, is no longer interested. And he made three very key issues that I think I needed to address. One, he said he does not trust the operations at CSA. And secondly, he said that he does not believe that he would have enough space to do the work that he needed to do, and such that he could not guarantee that there will be no political intervention as well as executive management interference. Then the third one was that he did not trust the CEO. And when I engaged with him on these issues, we were able to talk through these issues, and I ended up traveling to Cape Town to meet him. And in that meeting, because it's key to have a relationship between the director of cricket as well as the CEO, because these people are going to be working together on a daily basis. And in that meeting, I brought with me the CEO and also requested one of the now resigned members of the board, Professor Shirley Zinn, to sit in that meeting when I'm talking to Graham Smith. And in that meeting, it was a very cordial meeting. We addressed all the issues openly, and then we said, okay, let's move to a point where now we're negotiating terms.
All right, members of the media, let me take this opportunity to thank you for coming through to this press conference. I'll now allow members of the media to come forward and take this opportunity to also thank the board members for coming through. I'll now release you and open it up for one-on-one questions. Mr. Jacques Fall, if you can come and join us, sir. Thank you.